Welcome everyone to another podcast of the NFL Preview. I'm your host, Minister Jonathan Simmons, producer and lead host for the Real Talk Sports Show. And my co-host will be joining us in just a moment, Mr. Vincent W. Turner. He is the producer and lead host for 100 Yards of Football, which is aired every Saturday right here in the Metro Atlanta area on 11:20 a.m. It also broadcasts as well on 104.5 FM, The Peach. And Vincent is a guy who knows more about football than anybody I know. So we look forward to his insight here on the podcast as we shift gears and move away from the NFC South as we did last week. We talked about the NFC South since that is our home conference, so to speak. And we talked a little bit about could the Falcons repeat, how they were going to go about their business. And, of course, yours truly has been able to go up to the camp and take a look at the Falcons up close and personal. And there's no doubt, no question that this team looks like a team that is poised to at least make another serious run for the playoffs in terms of mindset and attitude. And so that brings us over to the NFC East, and we take a look at them. And certainly if we look at the top of that food chain, it's no other team than Vincent's favorite team, the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are set up with a team that really should have been squaring off against the Falcons in that championship game. But my Green Bay Packers were able to find a way to get it done behind the great right arm of, Aaron Rodgers. So the Cowboys found themselves once again home at an exit that was a bit earlier than originally anticipated. But there's no question there's a lot of excitement in Dallas as they had the twin rookies really handle their business with Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott. So we look forward to Mr. Football talking to us more about that and how that will pan out for the Dallas Cowboys. We're also going to take a look around the rest of the NFC East, taking a look at the Eagles. Carson Wentz came out of the chute, and had it not been for the dynamic twin duo of Prescott and Elliott, certainly Carson Wentz would have been in the conversation as a favorite for Rookie of the Year. Came out and played extremely well, especially the first 10 games of the season, and really had the Eagles knocking on the door and possibly looking at making some noise to get into a wild card berth. Although that didn't happen last year, we certainly look for them to improve this year as the team brings people back and they bring some great additions, which we'll talk about later on in the segment. The other team in the NFC East that's gone through some changes is the Washington Redskins. Be interesting to hear how the Redskins will pan out. Kirk Cousins continues to baffle everyone as he continues to play like an elite quarterback. Huge numbers last year. Was in the top 5 in almost every passing category in the league. And so it is going to be very interesting to see how he proceeds, even though he has lost weapons there in Washington. Can that offense still continue to percolate as it did under him last year? And last but not least, the New York Football Giants. Eli Manning, like him or not, here's a man that has been able to consistently be a clutch player. We know, of course, the only reason why the Patriots are not 7-0 with Tom Brady versus 5-2 is thanks to Eli, the younger brother of Peyton Manning, shooting them down not once but twice, both in the 2008 and the 2012 Super Bowl. So looking to see what they're going to do. Odell Beckham, certainly one of the top 3 receivers in the league, coming back. Also, they have a new tight end coming out of Mississippi, and we're going to take a look at him as well. So the Giants looking to make some moves, and, of course, the Giants doing what they always do on the other side of the ball, defense. Giants defense is one of the best in the entire NFL. And so that's going to be the other question. Eagles have a good defense. Dallas' defense is solid and steady. And so the question is, Redskins have some key players over there. Question I want to pose to Mr. Football is that going to be one of the better defensive divisions in the entire NFC? We're listening again to the NFC East preview. I'm your host, Minister Jonathan Simmons. I should say co-host. Me and Mr. Turner split this kind of right down the middle. And we are on standby for Vincent Turner, a.k.a. Mr. Football, who is going to be really bringing his stellar analysis to this podcast as we go forward throughout the year. And we would like to get your feedback. Phone lines, we're going to, for the first time, actually open them up on the podcast because we do it live first, and then save it for the re-airing of the podcast. The phone number, if you decide to call in during the live show, we are on Thursday night at 10 o'clock. So if you are happening to hear this show through iTunes or through Blog Talk, it's not Thursday night at 10 o'clock, you can't call in. But that number is 347-326-9991. You can call in and join us as we, talk some football and get to the previews of the NFL teams. We're going to go around. Our plan is to go around the NFL first and then bring you some college football as we get closer to college football. For those of you who are living in a cave or have been living in a cave, you probably do not know that Atlanta is going to certainly be the conundrum, as I like to call it, of sports in the South. And really one of the conundrum of sports in the nation over the next couple of years. We're going to be hosting a college football championship game here in 2018. That will be followed by the Super Bowl in 2019. And, of course, every single year we host the SEC Championship and the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which is one of the best attended college football bowl games in the country. And Chick-fil-A this year will not disappoint. Hate to diverge here, but just want to throw out a shameless plug for the place where I'm based now. The Chick-fil-A Bowl will have their kickoff game. They have two of them this year. Florida State versus the Alabama Crimson Tide, and from our own backyard, it's the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets taking on Tennessee, and two programs which are looking to make some noise here after doing fairly well in the 2016 season. So again, guys, just keep it locked right here. If you like football, we're going to bring you as much football as you can possibly stand. So we're going to take a quick break here to get set and get reloaded here as we prepare to bring for you the NFC East preview with Vincent Turner, Mr. Football from 100 Yards of Football, and yours truly, the Minister Jonathan Simmons, as we're going to talk to you about all the stuff that's going on in the NFC East. So keep it locked right here. Don't go away. We'll be bringing you more in just a moment.
Attention promoters, event organizers, and committees. If you're looking for a place to have your next big event, you must check out the C Room Multiplex. The C Room Multiplex cordially invites you to book your next artist or to host your next big event at the C Room, specializing in the following areas: CD release parties, showcases, fashion shows, movie premieres, birthday celebrations, wedding receptions, banquets, pastors' anniversaries, special events, and more. At the C Room Multiplex, we also offer catering and decorating packages. For more information, call us 678-823-5124. That's 678-823-5124. Or visit us on the web at croomatlanta.com. That's c-roomatlanta.com. The C Room is Atlanta's premier Christian entertainment venue. The C Room, 4013A Jonesboro Road, Forest Park, Georgia. Mention this ad for special pricing.
Once upon a time, there was a new crossover that refused to play by the rules. It flipped the script and made all the others look like fools. Featuring styling that's sexier by far and handles like a rock star. Introducing the first ever Toyota CHR.
Enjoy agile handling in the body of a seductive crossover that comes with standard 18-inch alloy wheels. The first ever Toyota CHR. The perfect ride to spin your own tail. Toyota. Let's go places.
This is Minister Jonathan Simmons, host of the Real Talk Sports Show. Do you like the positive sports stories you've been hearing? Well, partner with us to help keep the good news of sports on the air. We have great audio, video, and internet advertising packages available to promote any size business or event. Contact me directly at 678-410-9833 or send me an email, sales@realtalksports.net. We'd love to partner with you to keep the good news in sports on the air. And we are back here. Welcome to the NFC East Preview Show with Minister Jonathan Simmons, yours truly, and Mr. Football, Vincent W. Turner. Again, you can hear Vincent on 100 Yards of Football sports radio show. They air every Saturday, 9 a.m. to 12 noon on 11:20 a.m. here in the Metro Atlanta area and on 104.5 The Peach as well. And we're going to bring Mr. Turner on right now so he can join us and tell you what the website is so you can stream them from anywhere around the country. Mr. Football, good evening, sir. All right, seems like we're having a little technical difficulties bringing Mr. Football on, so let's see if we can try that again as we try to get Mr. Football on to the program. All right, Mr. Football, are you there, sir? All right, we're still having a little problem here. Those things happen from time to time. Anytime you are doing a broadcast, things can happen. Sometimes squirrels get into the machine. So we're going to, once again, try to roust up Mr. Football and see if we can get him on the air with us here sooner rather than later. Again, we're excited for those of you who decided to click in to join us here on the NFC East preview show. Like I said, yours truly, Mr. Jonathan Simmons and Vincent Turner, a.k.a. Mr. Football. Like I said, again, we're just trying to get our line situated here so we can bring him back on the show. Well, we're going to be talking about the Eagles, Cowboys, Redskins, and the New York Football Giants. And we're going to be able to bring up in just a few minutes not only Mr. Football, but we do have some audio, I believe, from LeGarrette Blount, who is one of the new add-ons for the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to go to our phone lines back here again and see if we can get the squirrels out of the machine and see if Mr. Football is able to hear us. Mr. Football, can you hear us, sir?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you now, sir.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I apologize for that. A lot of technical difficulties tonight.
Well, these things happen. Anytime you're dealing with technology, you have some problems that pop up, but nevertheless, we are here and continue to go forward. As we told everybody, the NFC East is the folks that we'll be looking at this week. And one of the teams that I don't want to say took anybody by surprise, but certainly their play early on with a rookie quarterback by the name of Carson Wentz, I think surprised some people, myself being one of them. I know he was obviously the number 2 overall pick, and a lot of people thought he should have been the number 1 pick, but I really was somewhat surprised at the way he was able to handle himself and actually have that team playing some outstanding football.
I remember when we was at this time last year, they had took Carson Wentz number 2 overall, the Eagles, and there was rumors that Sam Bradford was going to be the starting quarterback. But right
That's
before
correct.
the season started, they decided to trade Mr. Bradford, and Mr. Wentz worked out pretty well for the Eagles. Although they went 7-9, a lot of that play by Mr. Wentz, they could have easily been a winning team and a playoff team. And remember, a lot of his receivers dropped a lot of passes last year.
Well, that's correct. I mean, he had some struggles early on with his receiving core, but again, the guy was he was as advertised. You know, a lot of people thought that he was a bit more pro-ready than the number 1 pick out of California because they felt that with Wentz, you know, he showed a bit more all-around play, a bit more mobile, and it panned out because Wentz really, like I said, I think. For me personally, I really thought that Jason Goff was going to be a better guy. I thought that because he had been on a team at Cal that was not able to protect him, he had taken a lot of shots. I said, okay, this is a guy that knows what it's like to be hit in the NFL. But unfortunately, he seemed to be a bit more fragile than Wentz, being knocked out early in the season and really never looked completely comfortable in the NFL game. So, again, kudos to Carson Wentz. Well, yeah, he does have some help now, Vince, coming over from the Super Bowl champion Patriots. LeGarrette Blount is now with them, and I think he's certainly going to make an impact on helping him out. As a matter of fact, I think we have a clip here from LeGarrette Blount talking about him joining the Eagles. And again, once again, our technicals thing. Let's try it one more time and see if we can get the Eagles, LeGarrette Blount, come up.
Any quarterback that you get on your team and you want him to lead your team and be a franchise guy, he has to have the mindset. He has to have the skill set, you know, to lead. And I think he has those.
On this past weekend, did you get your ring?
I did.
How was that?
It was amazing. It was a fun time.
That was LeGarrette Blount talking about 2 things. Number 1, feeling that Carson Wentz could be the guy that could step up and perform. Obviously, if anybody would know about the performance of outstanding quarterbacks, having played with Tom Brady, obviously the best, he knows what he's talking about. But how much more of an impact can LeGarrette Blount have here with the Eagles? You're no longer now playing a Bill Belichick system. You no longer have Tom Brady. Can we look for him to be a 1,000-yard back? Can we look for him to get double-digit in touchdowns? How much impact do you think he's really going to have with the Eagles, Vince?
I think it was huge for the Eagles to be able to pick up a player of that caliber. As you just said, a guy that's played in, 2 out of the last 3 Super Bowls, arguably the best quarterback that's ever played this game in Tom Brady in New England. But I think what LeGarrette Blount does, he kind of rounds off and balances the Philadelphia offense. Remember, Philadelphia added some very serious playmakers at the receiver spot. They already got a good young fourth-year guy, Jordan Matthews, out of Vanderbilt, who's been steady. But last year, as I mentioned earlier, they had a lot of people that dropped passes. Nelson Aljour, the first-round pick a couple years ago, dropped a lot of passes. Dora Green Beckham, who's not with the team no more, dropped a lot of passes. But what they did before they got Mr. Blount, I think they got the piece they needed is Alshon Jeffries. And we all know how good he is coming over from Chicago. A lot of people thought he was the number one true receiver instead of Brandon Marshall before Brandon Marshall took off with the Jets. And then they got a speed demon in Torrey Smith, who, remember, early in his career with the Baltimore Ravens, was a guy that could really get deep. Then he went out to San Francisco, struggled for a couple of seasons. Now he's teamed with Alshon Jeffries. You put that with Jordan Matthews. Then now you put that with LeGarrette Blount. But I think the biggest thing that happens in Philadelphia, they was able to re-sign 10-time All-Pro, Pro Bowl tackle out of my school, the University of Arkansas, Jason Peters, to a 2-year deal.
Well, there's no question you have to keep your quarterback upright. Let's take a look at Alshon Jeffries' stats the last 2 years with the Bears. Numbers are strong for a team that, had an erratic Cutler up and down. Let's look at him here. In 2015, 54 receptions, 807 yards, just around 14 or 15 yards a carry, 15 yards of reception, 4 TDs. Last year kind of fell off a little bit in the TD area, but still was strong, 53 receptions, 823 yards, actually moved up a bit to almost averaging 16 yards a carry, 16 yards of reception and 2 touchdowns. So certainly if you can get a guy that can get you that type of performance, and especially if he's going to be now the number one targeted guy, I think that should be up to around 70 or 80 receptions. If he can do that, you're right. There could be a big impact to that Eagles team, especially now that you're going to have to respect the play-action fake that you have LeGarrette Blount in that backfield.
Well, like I say, I think this year the Eagles are going to be tough just because they added more offensive pieces. I think the only thing that we can say about the Eagles is that maybe they take a step back defensively, but that's not going to happen because I think they got one of the top 2 defensive coordinators in the game in Jim Schwartz. This is going to be a tough Eagles football team coming up. You mentioned Carson Wentz in his second year. One thing about Carson Wentz that he does very well that we haven't mentioned in the last 5 minutes we're talking about, he can ad-lib with his feet and make plays with his feet. So that means he's going to be a dangerous guy coming out of the pocket. And now you look, his receiving core is going to be like night and day for this upcoming season.
Well, you talk about the defense taking a step back. I mean, keep in mind they still do have a top 50 player. I'm sure you, like everybody else, you've been watching NFL Top 100 where these guys are voted in by the other players. Fletcher Cox, a guy that some people might have worried about, signing a big contract, might have tried to steal money. Well, he proved everybody wrong, having a monster year last year. Certainly you still have, I think you can squeeze a little bit more out of the defensive backfield from the veteran safety out of Ohio State. And I just drew a blank there as my mind went there, but help me out there, Mr. Football, the young man out of Ohio State.
Malcolm Jenkins.
So, I mean, they still have a few pieces there that are left on that team that hopefully can stabilize that defense because they're going to have their hands full with the rest of the NFC East. There's no question about it.
Well, I think one of the things they had troubles last year in defending the pass, Fletcher Cox, you mentioned, got a big contract in the offseason. He didn't have a good offseason in terms of being paid $106 million over 6 years. So I don't mean to throw that out there to you and try to put you on the spot tonight. I know we're on podcast, but anytime you got a player at the defensive tackle position signed 6 years for $102 million, and granted he was double teamed a lot last year, but he had a team high 6 sacks and 18 hurries. You need to get a little more production out of that. That's why in the draft, I think Mr. Cox is going to be back playing at the level that we expect him to be when they got Derek Barnett, who a lot of people arguably said was the best defensive end in the draft out of Tennessee. They took him number 1 overall, and then they signed another Super Bowl piece in Chris Long coming over. So their defensive line is going to be, I think, a lot more stronger as far as getting the rush and rushing the pass. Then they brought over Timothy Jurgen from Baltimore, who they said looked outstanding last week in minicamp. And then you look in the secondary, They made some tremendous strides there. They took Washington, Sidney Jones. Granted, he might be not ready to play maybe in mid-season towards Achilles, but he was rated a first-round talent. They got Rasheed Douglas, another big-time corner out of West Virginia that can play. Big guy, 6'2", about 190 pounds, can really play press coverage. Then you bring back Malcolm Jenkins, then Rodney McLeod. They said the two gentlemen right there was the best safety tandem in all of the league last year. Granted, Philadelphia is going to be a talented football team, and they made the strides by drafting real well on the defensive side, and then they got a quarterback coming back who started every game as a rookie.
Okay, one thing, Mr. Football, again, we from time to time don't necessarily see eye to eye on everything, but that's what makes a good show. It seemed like you threw a little shade at Fletcher Cox. I'm not quite understanding why you would throw shade at a guy that's a two-time All-Pro. Guy is considered by the rest of his peers to be one of the best interior linemen in the business. In the NFL Top 100 poll, he ranked 38. You pointed out yourself, he led the team in sacks as an interior lineman defensive tackle with 6.5 sacks, 18 hurries. And, oh, by the way, he's only 26 years old. So I'm just trying to figure out where you feel that this guy with either you made it sound like he's being overpaid for his performance. I'm not quite sure what I don't get it.
Okay, what I'm saying about Mr. Cox, he wasn't dominant. He wasn't dominating.
Whoa,
He was dominating years in past. To be paid $102 million 6 years, we talk about him being the best defensive tackle in the game.
Yeah, but he was ranked. Hold up.
Go ahead.
He was ranked of the top 100 players at any position. He was ranked 38. So that had to put him amongst the top 3 or 4 defensive tackles in the league. So I'm not sure why you. I mean, I think maybe because I know how this is too. If I'm really starting to think about it, I forgot you went to Arkansas, an SEC West team, and maybe you don't like the fact he came from Mississippi State, another SEC team. Mississippi State has been getting a little bit more, let's face it, their program has kind of moved ahead of you guys. So maybe that's a situation where you just don't like him because he's from that school. I hope that's not it. I mean.
Yeah, wait a minute. We talk about college football a little later down the road. All I'm saying is that she was rated 38th, right? Of the top 100.
Out of the top 100 players of any position in the league.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Okay, you're looking at the defensive tackle position where he played beside Benny Logan, played beside Brandon Graham. Granted, he had 6.5 sacks. Granted, he had 18 hurries, which was second on the team. All I'm saying is he wasn't as dominating that he needed to be, is being paid, $100 million contract for 6 years. If you look at the great defensive tackles, that's all I'm saying. Now, as far as you mentioning, Mississippi State being a better football program than Arkansas, I think you need to really take a step back and look at the records head to head. I don't have it in front of me the last 10 years I was going up against Mississippi State. But that's what makes this show great. That's what it makes it relevant. That's what it makes it one of the top podcasts, I think, on radio right now. I just think Fletcher Cox getting the big money, not taking anything away from it as a great player. I just don't think he played up to his $106 million contract.
All right. Well,
I don't think he had a better season than Grady Jarrett of the Falcons. If you want to be honest,
come on, Vince. Come on. I mean, listen. I cover the Falcons. Okay, I cover them.
Okay,
don't get me wrong.
What was Grady Jarrett's numbers?
Well, here's the thing. Keep in mind, Grady came on very strong. Of course, when it counted. At the last quarter of the season, the last 2 or 3 games, he came on very strong. Of course, the playoffs and the Super Bowl had not been for the tremendous gap that the Falcons did, he might have been the MVP of the Super Bowl. So I'm not taking anything away from Grady Jarrett at all. He has now elevated his game to be in that short list of top defensive players. But again, I'm going to say the same thing about Fletcher Cox. You're killing a guy that has been in the top 100 players picked by his peers at any position.
I'm not killing it. I'm not killing the guy, Minister Jonathan. I just said he did not play up to his potential of his new contract. That's all right.
So now, let me ask you a question. I'm just trying to. Last year he was ranked 49th, right? Okay, he signs a contract. He moves up to 38 overall, top 100 players. He's named to a second consecutive Pro Bowl. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, what more do you want the man to do? I mean, and he plays defensive tackle. I mean, if you're the end, you say 6.5 sacks and not doing anything, but from an interior lineman position, and like you said yourself, 18 hurries. I mean, how much more dominant can the body be? See, here's what I'm gonna say. Let's do this. Let's table this because we got to get these other teams. I'm very intrigued.
I understand that. But at the end of the day, when you look at overall, I'm just saying my personal opinion. He wasn't dominating to be the money, the player that he needs, that the money he received in the offseason.
All right. Well, we can agree to disagree on that. But I tell you one thing, as you mentioned, that front line, if in fact their first round pick plays at a level anywhere near the level he played in college, Mr. Barnett, that's going to be a very formidable front line. And, the Eagles are going to really give some people some problems. I'm not sure, what the situation is with Chris Long, what level of play he can bring to the table. But at the end of the day, Barnett, Fletcher Cox, they're going to make some noise, I think, in the NFC East. As speaking of another team that we're not quite sure, I think they're in a transition mode, is what do you think about the Washington Redskins? Huh? Hold on a second. I lost you 1 second. Come back again. Yes, sir.
Before we move on, you have to understand something about when you – hello?
I'm here for it. Go ahead.
Okay.
No, I'm with you. I'm listening.
I'm not knocking Mr. Cox's performance. All I'm going to say is this. How they judge that is how you play in big games against your competition. I would like to see what Mr. Cox got graded out last year against the Cowboys. That's all I'm saying, but we can move on.
So I knew I was going to get to that. See, fortunately, everybody knows because I told them as you were, transitioning onto the air, I told people you are a great Cowboy fan. I was very excited to have you talk about, how your team performed last year and what you think they can do this year, considering they really were knocking on the door and should have been the team that played the Falcons in the NFC Championship game. Of course, I'm happy my Green Bay Packers won, but it clearly Dallas was a better team, had more talent. So anyway, I'm excited to hear what you're going to say about that. Philadelphia is a team that who would have thought that they would be the team that really was pressing and get into the playoffs. And Kirk Cousins, can anybody really imagine that this guy, after ousting Robert Griffin III, has now played under basically a tendered contract 2 years in a row, and last year was one of the top 3 quarterbacks as far as statistically speaking in the league. I think it's actually number 4 overall. So what's going to happen now, as it seems like a lot of guys have moved off that team? Can we see them continue to move forward, or are they going to take several steps backwards now with all the losses off of that Eagle team?
You mean Redskins?
Redskins, I'm sorry. Yeah, Redskins. Yep, the Redskins. Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, let me give kudos to Kirk Cousins. When Jay Gruden named him the starter a couple of years ago over Robert Griffin III, I really thought that was going to come back and bite Washington more or less in the butt. But you got to give credit where credit is due. Kirk Cousins probably had this last 2 years, probably the best 2 years I've seen a quarterback have at playing at this level. And him playing under a tender last year, he answered the bell under a lot of pressure. I'm going to be really kind of curious to see how the Redskins now, it's not so much of Kirk Cousins, his situation, but they fired their GM, Scott McLaughlin, a guy who put together this town along with Drake Gruden. They fired him on March the 5th. To me, that didn't make a lot of sense. A guy that kind of orchestrated your team, then you end up, you don't re-sign Deshaun Jackson and Pierre Garçon.
Huge blow.
Both of them 1,000 yards, but I understand why. I mean, Washington wants to become a more physical team. As much as Deshaun Jackson is a great guy that can get deep, Deshaun Jackson, to me, was somewhat limited because he really couldn't give you that physical catch at really tough times of the game. If you understand what I'm saying, he had to be the kind of team with a more physical guy, because I think the guy that got in free agency, Terrell Pryor Sr., is going to be a really good football player. He seemed like he's finally found his niche at the receiver spot. And he had 1,000 yards for the Cleveland Browns last year. And I think Josh Dotson, who they took first round out of TCU, is now going to be a guy that's going to come in and fulfill that spot in one of them spots that Mr. Jackson or Mr. Garçon had last year with Washington. And then most of all, Jason Crowder is becoming maybe one of the top slot guys in the game. They went out, they cut Matt Jones, who they took a couple of years ago, number 3. He fumbled, ended up losing his job to undrafted free agent John Kelly at the running back position. I understand that. They drafted a big physical guy out of Oklahoma and Sareen Padrine. We know how good he is. The offensive line, to me, is always going to be pretty stable, along with Trent Williams, who has made the Pro Bowl the last 5 years at the left tackle spot, and Morgan Moses turned out to be a real good football player. So, with that being said, Kirk Cousins, I think, has got maybe a little more talent. It all depends on the tight end position with Jordan Reed, who I think, if he didn't have all the injuries from a concussion standpoint, would be one of the top 2 tight ends in the game right now. Here's a young man.
He's right now. You're right. He's still there. He's still right up there in the top 3 or 4, no doubt.
Right. Yeah. That is a very talented football player. If he stays healthy, Washington's not going to miss a beat offensively. I think where they made the bones, they drafted 2 guys out of the University of Alabama, 1 and 2 to go on their defense. They got to make strides from the line. Jonathan Allen was a huge pick for them. Then they came back, they got Ryan Anderson, another huge pick. So when you look at that, the Redskins, Kirk Cousins going to keep them in the mix, brother. And with them, I think the main thing is how they're going to operate without Scott McCullum, their GM.
Well, we look at this team, and the reason why we were concerned, everybody was concerned about the loss of Deshaun Jackson. I understand what you're saying about the guy's not really a possession or over the middle receiver, but he's never been that. What you really want him to do is stretch the field. And if you look at Kirk Cousins, what he's been able to do the last 3 years, his numbers, if you look at his average yards per attempt, is really, his numbers are right behind, Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan was around 9 yards per attempt. Kirk Cousins was 8.1 yards per attempt. He was right behind Ryan, the MVP, with 4,900 yards, and he had a 67% passing completion ratio. So this guy really was spot on, man. 25 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Year before that, 29 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, another 4,000-plus yard year. I mean, this guy's numbers, if you look year over year since they really put him in there at that starting position, he's made everybody eat crow because these last 2 years, man, he has had epic years. So I'm wondering, without having that deep threat to kind of stretch people out, I know you're saying they're trying to shift to a running-type offense, but we'll just kind of see, man, how he's going to be able to handle it, because I think really that ability to hit you with that quick strike was one of the things that made them successful, because you kind of knew, hey, they had Pierre Garçon going across the middle. You knew that they had Jordan Reed when he was healthy. So I'm just wondering, man, without that deep threat, can they still be effective passing the ball? We'll find that out.
Terrell Pryor was up there as one of the top guys in the league, the average yards per catch. Here's a guy that averaged, but averaged almost 18 yards a catch. A guy 6'6", 220, 4'4" guy, maybe 4'3", guy. I don't think necessarily they're going to miss a lot with Deshaun Jackson, myself personally. I think they got a bigger version of him. I think what you really need to really concentrate on is that they've had a lot of turmoil right before. See, they lost their GM, Scott McCullum, who put that team together, who was a guy that came about and that put this tremendous team together over the years. They brought Jay Gruden in as a coach. I mean, Deshaun Jackson, granted, but we're talking about a guy, Kirk Cousins, who, if he had 1,000 yards of Pierre Garçon, he had, like I said, 1,000 yards of Deshaun Jackson. I understand what you're saying, but Jason Crowder was very productive in this offense. Jordan Reed was very productive in this offense. I think if you put a talent like Terrell Pryor Sr., who was very productive, and coming from a team that only won 2 games, one game with the Cleveland Browns and had serious problems at the quarterback position, and this guy put up 1,000 yards, to me, I wouldn't be worried about Deshaun Jackson personally. That's just me personally.
Well, no question, man.
The thing you got is that you got a stable quarterback that can make plays with anybody out there on the field. To me, it's a GM that now you got Daniel Snyder taking over the club. And we know what Mr. Snyder has done in years running the Washington Redskins. They have not been a winning team. Scott McCullum got them to build a team that's had back-to-back winning season. And he's a very respected GM that was fired before March the 5th.
Well, we're going to find out, man, if that's going to be a bigger problem, as you mentioned, than what they've done. There's no question that Terrell Pryor comes with some outstanding pedigree in his first really full year as a wide receiver. 77 receptions, 1,007 yards, 13 yards per catch, 4 touchdowns, as you mentioned, on a poor club. And he also, from time to time, would, in fact, take a reverse or two for you as well. Does have blistering speed, 6'4", he runs around a 4.40. So there's no question, man, the guy is he's a threat. So we'll find out, man, what's the bigger problem there with the Washington Redskins.
Listen to this here. You right now, you would take Deshaun Jackson over Terrell Pryor if you had to say.
That's not what I said. To me, and I'm looking at a guy that has a history of being a Pro Bowl and a game-breaking wide receiver. So, and the other thing too is he's been hang on a second. The other thing too is he's been with Kirk Cousins for the last couple of years. So I'm thinking, there's a certain amount of synergy you get by working with a guy. Now, if you're asking me, hey, if I'm going to start a team today, which guy I'm going to take? Well, obviously, I'm going to have to take a younger Pryor than an older Deshaun Jackson. And that evidently that's the move that Cleveland is saying. They're saying we think we have a quarterback here that's moving close to elite status. We bring a guy in here that's proven himself to be a decent receiver a good receiver with a bad team, and we're going to bank on that. And banking on making all that chemistry work, because and I know, Vince, that you can put a lot of moving parts together, but if the chemistry is not there, all you got is a lot of moving parts. So that's going to be the question. All these new guys coming in, rookies, different guys, can they mesh this together and maintain the momentum they had from last year? Because the Redskins were a team that nobody really wanted to play down the stretch. You don't want to mess with them.
That's very true. There's no question about it from an offensive standpoint. Because down the stretch, Kirk Cousins was on fire. There's no question about that. I'm not disagreeing now. All I'm saying is that I think with the loss of Deshaun, I'm just saying losing their GM to me was very huge.
Well, that's it. Like you said, man, and hopefully Snyder, you're right. He unfortunately has a bad track record of not being able to manage the assets of his team, and he, is really the ultimate example of a meddling owner that really is out of his bailiwick.
And that's what I'm saying. When he decided to fire Scott McCullum, then they turned around and fired the defensive coordinator Joe Barry, which I kind of understand now. Then they lost the offensive coordinator Sean McVay that went over now as the head coach of the Rams. They lost so much in a really quick time now. So that was telling me that maybe Mr. Snyder, eventually. We know his track record. We know his history, and it's not a good one. But that being said, Washington, no matter what, I think whatever offensive pieces, I think we can all agree that Kirk Cousins is rounded into a top 5 quarterback in the league. Can we say
there's no question. Yeah, there's no question because this guy now is in that elite status. Like I said, he was 3rd in overall passing yards, only behind the reigning MVP Matt Ryan and Drew Brees, who threw for over 5,000 yards, which is just a staggering number. He was only 64 yards behind Matt Ryan, who was the MVP. So there's no doubt Kirk Cousins has proven that giving him a tender was a real bad idea. Well, actually, you know what? As much as we keep slamming Washington saying it's a bad idea, maybe it was a good idea because maybe he would not have played this way had he not been on this year-to-year contract. You never know. Well, let's move a little bit up the road, up I-95. I know all about this place. The New York Football Giants, technically the New Jersey Football Giants, made some good moves to strengthen a roster, which is starting to round the shape. Probably the biggest move is getting Eli a big-time help in this receiver spot with tight end Evan Ingram out of, I believe, Ole Miss, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir. University of Mississippi down in Oxford.
Brother, from everything I've been hearing from reading, they're saying this guy could be the best tight end since a guy I grew up watching, Mark Bavaro. If that's the case, buddy, you better watch out for those Giants.
Well, I'll tell you, hold on. I think from a receiving standpoint, I'm not talking about all-around blocking, but I think Mr. Ingram obviously put up some nice numbers at Ole Miss. Very productive football player. I think he caught everybody's eyes at the combine. He ran a 4.40 there. Just a very explosive football player. It's a guy that's from the local area where we're doing our podcast from. He's from Powder Springs. Went to Hillgrove High School. So very high recruited football player. But like I said, what I like about the Giants is that they went out last year. They finished 29th rushing the football. They had some problems in their offensive line. Had some injuries. Justin Pugh, young man they took number 1 a couple years ago out of Syracuse, got hurt early on. Eric Flowers, their big left tackle, who they took number 1 2 years ago out of Miami, struggled. But I think what they realizing is that Eli is now 36 years old. The window's starting to turn a little bit. Last year, without a running game, he kind of struggled. And, of course, Victor Cruz was probably on his last leg, but they still got a very explosive player, Odell Beckham Jr. And what I like about it is that they went out. They said, hey, we got to get them some more playmakers. They took Mr. Ingram number 1. They came back. They laid it down the road in the 4th round, who I think they got a steal. They got a real good football player in Wayne Gallman. Running back out of Clemson, another local guy in the Atlanta metro area that's right up the road from Logansville. I think out of that draft pick, this guy has a real good chance of being one of the most impact rookies in the league this year. I really like that pick. And now, not only they bring over Brandon Marshall, we know what Brandon Marshall is going to bring if he's focused on football, first and foremost. If he's focused on football, then the Giants are going to be a real tough team with Eli now offensively. And then when you're looking at the Giants, what I like about them most of all is that their defense is still intact. Number 10 overall, and it was number 1 and number 2 against the run last year.
Oh, no doubt, man. And they are a team that traditionally, that's how you have to play. When you are in a cold weather climate, you have to be able to have a great defense, and you got to be able to do 2 things. One thing very well if you can. Not so much in today's NFL, but you had to stop the run. The Giants found out about a decade ago that now in this new NFL, you got to have a pass rush. And they've consistently been able to get guys that can rush the passer without necessarily bringing blitz packages and things like that. They're a very, very, very tough team. And although they've had some spots here and there, certainly with Jason Pierre-Paul with the loss of his fingers, he still proved, man, that he is still a very, very tough out at the defensive line position. And so, yeah, we're going to look for them to do some nice work there. And you're right about Wayne Gallman. I had a chance to see him in person last year, Thursday night game when Clemson came to town, played against Georgia Tech. Very impressive. The guy just is, he's just a solid player, quicker and faster than I think everybody thought. We looked at him and, thought he was, more of an in between the tackles guys, but, he's got some speed and some quickness. And you're right. I think that under the right circumstances, he might be able to make an impact on that Giant team. And certainly we know Eli Manning knows how to get the most out of his players. There's no doubt about that. That guy there, when it's all said and done, we're going to look back and realize that we looked at a guy that if not in the Hall of Fame, he's going to narrowly miss it. 2 Super Bowl rings, clutch player, has went and beat the best. Favre, Rodgers, Brady, he's done it. So, kudos to Eli Manning. But you're right, at 36, though, he's winding it down, bro.
I think the Giants are the most balanced team in the division right now. Look what they did. Last year they was bringing in a new coach in Ben McAdoo. Didn't know what really to expect from him. They spent over $200 million in free agency on the defense side of the ball. They brought over Damian Harrison from the Jets, brought on Oliver Vernon from Miami, and gave Jarvis Jenkins a lot of money for the Rams, and you saw what happened. They turned out to be a real strong defense. I think they got the best secondary in the game right now. When you look at it, they got 3 real good quality cornerbacks. Mr. Jenkins, the young man they took number 1 out of Ohio State, Eli Apple, and then a guy that you should know about, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie. Remember him 8 years ago?
Wonder.
We saw him receive. Yeah, when we was at a vet, seeing him receive the Black College Football Defensive Player of the Year award, I believe. They was receiving
That's correct,
from
sir.
Tennessee State. So,
yep.
And then you got Landon Collins, who second year will be a third-year guy at Alabama, second-year guy that was all-pro, had probably one of the best seasons at the strong safety position since I seen Sean Taylor. When he was with the Washington Redskins, his play reminded me a lot of him, Mr. Collins. So this is a team that I got a lot of I got a lot of respect for the Giants. If they stay away from injuries within their offensive line, Eli has a lot of toys to play with now. And I forgot to not mention Sterling Shepard is going to be pretty good in his second year out of Oklahoma. That's why Mr. Cruz is not there anymore.
Well, no question, man. You look at the Giants, you look at that team, and these are the types of teams that they put together over the years that would make these runs, go deep in the playoffs. And, once the Giants get in the Super Bowl, man, they're tough out. So, we look for the Giants, man, to make some noise and to be a team that's going to be a formidable team to play because of their balance, especially when you get late in the year. They're going to be able to run the ball. Certainly Evan Ingram is going to give them the ability to control the ball with the short passing game, with his size and quickness. So, man, the Giants are going to be a handful. And, of course, that means that they're going to be knocking on the door of your Dallas Cowboys, who last year took it by storm with the twin rookies of Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. But, Mr. Football, I got to, before you get into your analysis of your Cowboys, your thoughts really quickly on some of the off-field mishaps of Mr. Ezekiel Elliott, who experienced his second car accident in 2 years and has some other minor missteps. What do you think about Elliott? Just, someone who's maybe suffering from what a lot of guys suffer from when they're rich and young, or do we have something that needs to really pay more attention to by the Cowboy brass?
Okay, what do you mean by mishaps? I mean, this month, what car accident are you talking about? He wasn't driving. He wasn't driving. Okay. He was a passenger. But if you remember last year, on his way to, I believe, the practicing for playing against my boys, he had a situation where he had an accident then. Well, I'm just like this. A lot of times, we got young players that's in this game. They're gonna come over a microscope. I wouldn't see anything about it. I'm sure if there's anything to make out of the Cowboy brass is on top of it, and I'm sure they got Mr. Elliott being watched closely. I don't say there's anything wrong with it. All I see is a guy that had over 1,600 yards rushing, 16 touchdowns, the best running back that's came in this draft since Adrian Peterson. And to me, he's kept his nose clean because he came in the league with a couple of situations, as you say, with some females out there. Right. He came through the whole season scathed and clean, did he not? And to me, when you look at I'm looking at a player. Obviously, it didn't affect him because you can say what you want to say. To me, he was the best running back in all of pro football last year. It wasn't Devontae Freeman. It wasn't LeVon Bell. But it just amazes me how you and all the critics out there, you want to nitpick, but nitpick about his 1,631 yards and 16 touchdowns. Nitpick, he's only 22 years old. And nitpick that I did say this, not even being a Cowboys fan this evening on podcast, but I told several people on 100 yards of football that he was going to be the best running back in the game last year. Did I not? I don't mean to be boasting and bragging, but did I not say that? So I don't understand why it seems like you called me out by my University of Arkansas, and it's like you might have some sour grapes. Now, granted, it's two less games from a Dutchess standpoint he had against the Giants, and I will give you that, but I just don't understand how you bring that up when he had the same type of transgression and questions. He went through the season unscathed and got 1,631 yards.
Let me just go through this for a second, okay? And this is why I said I'm not. You know me, Mr. Football. I try to keep everything, on the up and up above level. I don't take shots at players because, as I'm often teased about my constant being out amongst people at different events, I understand there's a lot of pressure on these guys. So I've moved back now that I've been in that inner circle to realize the amount of things that are coming at these guys, especially being at that age and having that kind of money and being that physical shape. It's a lot of temptation. But the reason why I talked about this is because this is, unfortunately, stuff in the news. Okay, let me go over a couple of things really quickly, and then we'll move on to his outstanding performance, stellar performance on the field. We're not going to take anything away from that at all. We had a situation here, obviously, in 2016. We had a woman that said not once but twice he abused her. The league, and I don't know why it's taking so long, but the guy technically is still being watched on an investigation by the league. That was as reports back in May. So I'm not sure what the league is looking for. I'm not sure why it's taking so long, but they still are under some scrutiny there. The other thing is that he had a situation in I don't know why he did this. He decided he was going to go into into a place in Seattle where I guess it's legal to do this. They have a marijuana dispensary. Okay, now he didn't buy anything, but probably ill-advised for him to go in there. And last but not least, as I mentioned, hey, it happens to people. Some people have bad luck, but the guy has been in 2 car accidents in a year. I'm like, hey, man, get Google. Because when you're rushing for 1,600 yards as a rookie, you need to keep yourself crystal clean. And here's what it says. He himself said this. This is the headline on 247 Sports as of yesterday. Ezekiel Elliott to lay low from now on and focus more on football. That's what he said. I didn't say that. That's what he said. So that's all I was saying. My hope is that, hey, it's the Dallas Cowboys, and it seems like they got it under control because this guy is immensely talented, and he could be the next guy to rush for over 2,000 yards. That's all I'm saying. I'm not taking shots at the guy. I'm just saying, hey, I want the guy to be straight because I want to see him.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from this evening. It's no problem.
I'm in your corner.
No problem. No problem. I don't have no comment. I mean, obviously he's a young guy that, he's been in situations. To me personally, I think we need to talk more about his performance on the field, and I'm not going to hear tonight. This is only our second podcast, and we got a long way to go. Season hasn't started yet, so I don't want to get into it. But to me personally, I learned to not say what I really want to say this evening, but you know what I'm thinking. You know me. We've been friends for a long time. Honestly,
yes,
on
sir.
the podcast, I think you taking shots, but at the end of the day, you say you out there to report, so I guess you need to report this. And that's all I can say. But me, I don't see it as a problem. As long as a young man, as far as going into a cannabis, what's the shop you say he went into?
It was evidently they make some synthetic marijuana in Seattle. But here's the thing again,
but we got a lot of people that smoking marijuana in the league. I'd be curious of how you research how many players. How you took out your tablet and research how many players since you just going to put Mr. Elliott on the list. I'm just curious.
All right, wait a minute. See, this is what I don't understand. I clearly stated in the whole article, it said that he did not buy anything. Okay,
but
and
you
I
already
said
claiming them guilty, though, John. You already claiming them guilty. You already claiming them. But it don't matter. But all I'm saying is this. Why have you not brought up the players that have got caught with synthetic weed?
Well, because right now we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, that's all I want to say. Okay,
we're talking NFC East. When I get an NFC, West. If there's somebody that has headlines like that, don't mention that. Well, let's get back to what the Cowboys did on the field. A monster year.
Yes, please do. Yes, sir.
Cowboy Nation was in full throttle last year. Cowboys were back. And let's not really go off the rails now. It was a couple of years ago. Had it not been for a very suspect play call by the referee, the Cowboys would have been in the NFC Championship. So I don't want to make it sound like all of a sudden they were, 2-12. And, oh, look, they came back. But I'm just saying that it was for Cowboy Nation. I think you and everyone else is feeling that y'all are back for a while now with Prescott and with Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah. You asking me? Do I think we back?
Right. Right. All the way back, not like pretend back. Being like a dominant team again, a team that's able to compete every year for a championship.
I think we back as far as being competitive. I'm not going to say we all the way back as where I think we should be back playing at a championship level. Where the goal was every year was to get to the Super Bowl. If you're talking about the Michael Irvin, Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith years, no, because we know how that type of talent compared to those teams. I think what we found last year that I was very happy about, I think we found a quarterback for the future. And that's what I'm happy about most of all, a quarterback that played with great poise, great composure, led the team in very tough circumstances, and most of all, made the team better from one man to a 53-man roster and brought a lot of youth back to the squad. And I think a lot of people don't know this. The Dallas Cowboys are the youngest team in the National Football League. I think we got like 30, maybe 20 to 30 players I don't know the number that's under the age of 25. To this year, I think it's going to be a challenge because now when you look at Dak Prescott, let's face reality. I'm not a fool by no means. The second-year teams get film on you. They tend to look at your weaknesses. Dak came out of nowhere, Mr. Prescott. He was a fourth-round pick, and really he got better at the end of the year, but as he played better, the running game got better. There was no injuries in the offensive line. But that's going to change this year because we lost two of our starting linemen. Ronald Leary left, signed for a boatload of money in Denver, and Doug Free retired. So now we're going to move Lydell Collins, who played right guard last year for us. He's going to be the right tackle. Now we're going to be starting Jonathan Cooper, who was cut by Arizona, former first-round pick. But so far it's been considered a bust. But now he's going to get his opportunity to play in the offensive line. So I don't know how he's going to gel with Tyron Smith, what's the other young man, Nick Martin. I'm not Nick Martin. I can't think his first name. And Zach Martin, and Mr. Travis Frederick. Then Dez Bryant has to stay healthy for us. It's the first time in 2 years that he's coming into our season that he's been healthy. Then we got to find a guy that's going to be consistent, the number 2 receiver. You know, we re-signed Terrence Williams for a lot of money. I still feel like that we could get better at the position. Cole Beasley had an outstanding year, but I think we can still get better with the players we have. Bryce Butler, Noah Brown, 7th-round pick out of Ohio State, Lucky Whitehead, Ryan Switzer. One of those guys has got to step up big time and really help Dez out and really give our wide receiver position a little more pop. And, of course, Ezekiel Elliott has to stay healthy, hands down. But I'm a lot more or less, I guess, feeling more better because we got Alfred Morris bagging them up along with Darren McFadden. And, of course, for us to take the next step, I talked about our offensive team. Defense is where we're going to have to take the next step if we're going to be division champions and repeat. We lost our whole.
I'll tell you one thing, Mr. Football, as always, we get right to the end of the broadcast. We're right about there now as we count down the final seconds. Listen, man, again, we just are excited about this new podcast. We're excited about our new listeners that have joined us here. We really appreciate all the guys that have supported this podcast right off the opening rip. Before we get off the air, what's the way that they can find out more about you and, of course, give people the date and time of your broadcast?
Well, of course, you can catch me and follow me on Facebook at 100 Yards Football Sports Talk Radio. And you can follow me on another Facebook page, which is 1120 The Score. And you can listen to me every Saturday morning on 1120 The Score AM and 104.5 FM out of Douglasville, Georgia. And you can stream at 1120thescore.com.
All right, guys. Of course, if you want to check me out, I'm on Tuesday nights, 8 to 9 p.m. The Real Talk Sports shows we broadcast to you from Atlanta's Incredible Radio, WIGO 1570. Just recently won a Stellar for Best Gospel Station of the Year. You also can find me on that same station each and every day, Monday through Friday, around 4:20 p.m. for your daily dose of sports, where I'll give you a quick 1 or 2 minute sports updates of all the things that happen in the Metro Atlanta area and the breaking news that went on nationally as well. Remember, you can follow me anywhere on social media at Real Talk Sports, the number 7. So, again, Real Talk Sports 7. Check us out on the website at www.realtalksports.net. All right, guys, until next week, or who knows, we might be back a little sooner. You've been listening to the NFL podcast starring Vincent W. Turner, a.k.a. Mr. Football, and yours truly, the minister, Jonathan Simmons. God bless you, and good night.
Once upon a time, there was a new crossover that refused to play by the rules. It flipped the script and made all the others look like fools. Featuring styling that's sexier by far and handles like a rock star. Introducing the first ever Toyota CHR.
Enjoy agile handling in the body of a seductive crossover that comes with standard 18-inch alloy wheels. The first ever Toyota CHR. The perfect ride to spin your own tail. Toyota. Let's go places.
Progressive brings you Flowetry with Flo.
When Flo flows, she flows in the know. Mind ruminates the rates. Shown them all, I heed the call. Seeing the rest, I choose the best. Sometimes it's ours, sometimes it's not. When the fox walks, is it called a fox trot? That's a real question.
Compare Progressive Direct rates with competitors' rates. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.